You might be wondering, what are databases? Why are they important? Well, they are important because they are everywhere. Every website you go to, let's just go to a website just for fun here. How about CNN? CNN News keeps their articles in tables of data. And when you go to view data, advertisements and articles and the media file showing up, guess where they decide to pull that data from? They're in a database somewhere. And as you refresh your page, it's maybe perhaps refreshing the headlines you're seeing. Go to any other newscast. How about somewhere else? How about social media, Facebook.com? When you go to Facebook, you log in. There is a user table and a password that goes with your user before you can get in. And then you can see all your friends and their cat pictures. Or you go to Amazon.com and you're going to go buy something. Well, it has the retrieval of the latest deals by searching with what they call a query into their database to pull up today's deals, the things that they want to present to you. And you know what else is going in their database? If I click on pharmacy, it pulls up the information related to pharmacy. If I click on anything else, like, if I want to log in, am I logged in? Oh, I'm in my account. I can go look at today's deals. Every time I click on a page, it's looking at information from their huge, very efficient, very expensive databases. Oh, and what else they're tracking? They are tracking every click that you take, every move you make, every face smile you fake. They're watching you. Heard that song on the radio this morning, thinking, yep, that's the internet. Everywhere you go, they're watching your every click. That's going in a database as well. So, databases are important. They're everywhere out there. You go to the weather.com. The historical data for the weather.com. That's being stored in the weather.com database. And all their locations and temperatures are being stored there. Now, as we think about databases, what databases are is basically a very efficient way to store data. In order to be efficient, it needs to be organized very carefully and stored very carefully. There is not just one type of database, though. There are many databases. If you look on this search for most common databases or top databases, depending on what company you find, you will see lists of various types of databases. Now, in an actual techie database course, we actually learn a little bit more details about some of these database types, but it's going to take a long time to learn about each one of those. Some of these are very powerful. Some of them are very specific to a specific type of data. Here we see the one we're going to use listed here at number 11 in the many types of database programs. There's some huge databases out there, and some of these are very specialized, and you can make a lot of money if you know about some of these other databases. And it's up to, depending on the application, some of these databases may be in high demand, but how you store data and how it is structured depends on what database platform you're using. Some of these are very expensive, very specialized to particular kinds of data, but there's all sorts of databases out there. And if you could become an expert at a particular database type, you could that could be your career. You could be a database expert. And there's certifications, and each vendor of databases could hire you depending on the market they have for their database. Here's an interesting name, Toad. Well, there's databases and there's the platforms that they reside on. The format of the database can come in many varieties. Just like you see many database programs, there are many languages and terminology related to databases. Here we see some of the similar names. Notice I don't see Access showing up here, even though I just did a search for database types in Google. You're not going to have to worry about all the database types. We're just learning to use one tiny little database type and learning a little bit about that. So the reason we have this in this course, you may not be using it. The most likely highest tech thing you'll be using most likely is Excel. And it's very common to be used in every company. So knowing Excel, I'd say that's really going to pay off. Knowing databases, you're going to find out whether it's understandable. And if you understand how we work through Access in a very simple or just learn the basics about Access. If you find it fairly easy, you might find that, hey, maybe you might enjoy learning a little deeper into Access or learning about other database platforms. You can either be a developer in a database or train others to use it. I know a person that actually makes money just teaching other people how to use Access because it's not an easy program to learn. But it's very powerful. And remember, databases are everywhere. Everywhere you go, every click you make is in somebody's database. So be careful where you click. Be careful, little mouse, where you click, because you're being watched every click. Maybe not every click in my little text editor here on my computer, but when you're on the internet, someone knows every single place where you go. And if they don't know you specifically, they know every place that someone from Emmaus is going, because if you go out through the Emmaus firewall out to the internet, that firewall is being tracked everywhere you go. Okay, so knowing that databases are super important, let's start Access and just learn how Access can be an introduction to using a database. And to use Access, I can come down into the search bar and type Access, and then I will see this little icon show up. I can right click and pin that to the taskbar, which I've done. So therefore, Access now, I can just click on my toolbar there and it starts up Access. Now, yes?
Okay.
You're logged in. Oh, did you get my email?
I got your email, but this is like the computer login, and it's not letting me log in at all. And I'm using like the right everything. I'm using this. It's just saying it's not me at all. Text me right now.
When I gave you,
For
when I sent you the email, just last Friday, because we wanted to see if we could clear up the problem with logging.
Oh,
Something like that. 24 days. And I can always reset it if you can't find it. You want to try, did I get you on there? Yeah, try that. And if that doesn't work, try the 24 days. And if it doesn't work, no, the Office one, that doesn't touch your Office. And you don't want to log into Office. I'm thinking that might be part of the problem. You don't want. Yeah, we want to see if we can get past that, because I think that's what's really slowing you down. To log into Office. And the OneDrive, I was seeing if that might speed things up. So I turned off, and also I turned off turning on running Teams every time. Teams loves to start every time.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to be creating a blank database. So I'm going to click blank database, or double click. Oh, I clicked too fast. I don't want to do that. I'm going to close my database. I clicked too fast. Access, blank database. Now, before I click create, I want to give it a name and a location. Access likes to decide where your file is while it's starting. So before I click create, and I just realized double clicking skips me past this, I click once, and before I click create, browse, over to where you want to keep your file. Now you're fine if you put in your documents folder. I'm keeping it in my special folder over here in my CS1 101, Fall 2023, Section 2. And the name I'm going to give the file, that's the important thing. The name I'm going to give it is AC1 Veterinarian. And I click OK. Now it knows what the file name is going to be, the database file name is going to be, and where it's going to be saved. And now I can click Create. Is Sabrina, your login working there?
It's still loading, but it's gonna log.
All right. Now Microsoft loves, I'm hoping that starting Teams and wanting to go into your OneDrive is going to speed things up for you. Okay, so now I click Create. I have the database name and I click Create. And it pops me into sort of something that looks sort of like a spreadsheet, but it's not a spreadsheet. It's a table. Looks a lot like a spreadsheet. I can click on different cells as I start entering data into my table. But first thing it needs to know is, what is the title of every column in my table? That's because I'm not creating a worksheet. I'm creating a very special storage, an organized storage of data. And the first column is called ID. And the first thing we want to do is change the name of that. If I double click on the gray of that first column named ID, I can give it a different name. And the name I want to give it is owner space ID. Everything about that, otherwise everything about that first column that was created for me is going to stay the same. Let's go back and click on that owner ID again. And we see here in the top ribbon, the table fields ribbon, that owner ID has a data type here of auto number. And we'll learn to what all these mean. We're not going to mess with a lot of these, but this here is important. The data type, I don't want access to give a number to it. I want to be able to type in a number. So change that from data type auto number to data type short text. Because in tables of data, as we store our data, every column in this spreadsheet looking table is a field, and every column has only a certain kind of number can go in that field as I begin to enter records about owners. We care about the field size as well. In this particular table, we don't want the owner ID to get any longer than 5 characters. So in field size, I change that number to 5. So we see every time I click a column in my table, when I am in what we call data sheet view, at the top in my fields it shows me what kind of field it is, what kind of data it is, and the field size. I can also adjust the name and caption. Let's click on name and caption and see what I can adjust there. There's the name. I could change my name if I want. The caption is going to be O_ID, just for something a little shorter when I display it as a table. The description is an optional comment to help someone else that's reading or using this database. The description is reference to the owner. It's a unique number. Just like your student ID as a unique number, you are in the school's database in Populi by your student ID. Now, it's not going to be the same as your card, because if you lose your card gets a different number. But your ID in the Emmaus database is very much like this owner ID. It's the way databases reference you as your records in the system. Just like you have a driver's license ID, the government has that as a reference to the information they're keeping about you. Your social security number is sort of like that too. It's a unique reference. Sadly, social security numbers are not unique. They're not long enough, and there's system problems because of that. Now, I want to add more fields to this table, and I'm going to go back to my list of tables because we want to keep track of various things in this particular table. I imagine with owners, I'd like to know what their name is. So I'm going to click here on the column, click to add. And short text is a type of data I'm going to store in this column. Right away it highlights the name. Give me a clue. Hey, I should give it a name other than field 1. Let's just start typing owner first name. Now the owner first name can get long, and I can adjust my column width just so I can see my full title. And I have to click on it to make changes to that. If as soon as I hit enter, it wants to take me to the next field. So it's a little awkward entering the structure in datasheet view. I can come back to this and click on it, and the owner name, go down to my little, I have a little table they give me in the textbook of what name should go, or what field should go in my owners table. Gotta find that table. There we go. Long text. Here we go. The owner first name, we want to limit to 50 characters. So in field size, I'm going to type 50 there. That doesn't mean I can't type a completely misspelled name. It just limits the size of how long the name can be to 50. Just like when I click here, I can see the size of that field can only be up to 5 characters. Owner first name, short text. So for this table, everything's going to be short text. So let's start adding more columns. Click to add, short text, type in the name, owner last name. Now it kind of bugs me. I have owner last name there. If I try to go up and change the field size to 50 and now hit enter, watch what happens to my owner last name. It gets changed back to field 1. I don't know why it has to do that. So I have to type owner last name and then hit enter and then come back to it and adjust the field size. Awkward. They're trying to make something complex be more user-friendly, but they've not, I don't think they're doing the greatest job of it. They've had like 30 years to work on this. Short text, that field is going to be owner street. Now, I'm happy with a very long possible street name, so I'm leaving the field size at 255. So I'm just going to hit enter, and I don't need to come back to this to adjust the field size. Next one is going to be owner city. Short text, owner city. Enter, come back to it, check the field size of 50. Now go to the next one. I can, if I ever misspell something, I can double click there and edit the name, or I can right click, rename, or I can click name and caption and rename it. Those will all let me give it a name. And we don't have to worry about this caption or description on any of the other ones. So owner city, after owner city comes owner state. Short text, owner state. Enter, come back and click on it, because owner state, we know we don't have states with 255 characters. We want to limit the state to the abbreviation of the state, so I'm putting a 2 there for my field size. Doesn't mean I can't type a wrong 2 characters, but it's making sure I don't try to type more than 2 in my owner state. For our tiny little databases we're creating here, the field size isn't as big a deal. But just imagine if I'm storing millions of records, if I'm reserving 255 for something where I'm only going to type 2 letters, I have a lot of wasted space in my database if I'm reserving that much space for every record. So that's why we pay attention to field size. Owner state. After owner state comes owner postal code. Now, more professional or some practices in other databases is field sizes or field names are always all caps and underscores in between them rather than spaces. We're playing just with a little friendlier view of it, so we're not worrying about spaces. We're allowing that. But some database programmers, they're very careful. They all caps in their field names. Postal code, the length for postal code, we want to limit that to 9. Hit enter. I can always see if I just click on a column what I have set for the field size for that particular column. So 5, 50, 50, 255 for street, city, 50, state, 2, postal code 9, and a few more. We're going to have phone numbers. Now, they are splitting from the convention. They've been putting owner in the front of every field up till now. Now they decide, oh, we don't need to put owner there anymore. Home, phone. I would have not put owner on any of them because the name of the table is going to be owner. But field size of 25 for phone numbers. Home phone is the name of that column. And the next one's going to be short text, and that's going to be mobile phone. Hitting enter, clicking again, field size 25. And enter. Last field is going to be short text, email address. Email address, and it's not doing any spell checking on your field names. Come back and check the field names. Email address is the last one. The field size of that is going to be 50. Now I can click in the upper left, double click on any border column divider, and auto fit. And now I have all my columns. Click on each one, and I arrow back. I can see arrowing through my fields, their names and the field size. Right now, all we care about is name and field size. I'm not going to worry about adding any more. They're all short text, and they have various links. Now, occasionally, someone has typed this information in the line of white right beneath the first row. That's entering data. We are clicking in the gray, establishing the names of the columns. We have no data. The little star should be blank. We're not entering data. We're defining the structure of my data. Because tables is how we store the data. And as we reference tables, we are very careful about that. Because let me go back to why we're doing all this, back to a little bit introduction here, because we're going to have tables like this in this particular application. We are keeping track. Let's keep our tables here. We have a little design. Oh, I must have skipped over that page. There is a design that we're following here. The whole reason we're doing this, we're running a veterinarian. Here they are. We're running a veterinarian business, and we're going to be keeping track of owners of pets, and that information is going to be kept in the owners table. Because patients are going to be owned by owners, and they're thinking of them as a different a different type of data, we're going to create a patients table, keeping track of the patients. And when we refer to a patient in the patients table, one field in there is going to be a very important field. Who their owner is going to be a very important field in my patients table. This is called relational database. We have tables of information, and instead of listing the owner again by their first name, last name, address, I refer to the owner's ID in the other table. So I can have many patients owned by the patient that has, the owner that has 1,000 cats. All those cats will refer to that first owner. And I'm not retyping the owner information. I'm keeping the owner information in a separate table. And so if ever the owner moves with all their 1,000 cats, all I do is change the owner information in one location, and all the cats have their new home because I'm referring to that owner by reference. Just makes sense that I don't retype data, I refer to the owner. And now as we create an appointments table, I'm going to refer to what patient has an appointment, a date and a time, a treatment, that's going to be a treatment table that I'm going to be creating. I'm going to have a veterinarians table to refer to multiple veterinarians, and also the owner, so we know which owner to inform and remind them of the appointment. So tables and the design of that gets into the techie course of database design. We're just showing you something that someone has thought through in order to establish a veterinarian database. You don't have to worry about the design of the tables. But if you find that this is interesting to you, that's where the work is and where the high pay is in databases, designing databases to be very efficient in accessing and then designing the user interface for the people to get at the information, like the Amazon website. When you bring up a page, it's referring to products table and prices and specials and huge database with lots of tables. Our database is maybe going to have maybe 6 tables. So that's the reason we're creating tables. We keep the data super organized, so when we need to find out who has appointments today, we gather information from the tables and display them in a report of today's appointments. If I ever want to see who had an appointment 2015 in January 5th, my database can pull up that information. That's why databases are so important. They store data in a very structured way, and huge amounts of data are being stored out there. And if you just know a little bit about how data is being stored, you will be a very valuable future employee. Okay, now we're ready to enter data into our owners table. So let's find that part now. So we created the table, we created the fields, and now let's enter information about our owners to just see how this is all going to work. I'm going to go find my owners' names here. They give it to me down here somewhere. We're going to be entering data now into the table. Because I am in datasheet view, I can just start typing information. Now is when I can start typing information on the first row. This is going to be known as my record of information. We have tables of information, we have fields, and we have records to enter. And I just realized I haven't saved my table yet. Let me do a Control S to save this table. I'm going to give it the name Owners. And I click OK, or Enter. And now I see the particular title showing up there. If I ever want to, I can close my Owners table. And over here in my navigator, I can double click on it and open it up again. And the font changes for some reason from the design. Now I'm going to enter some information. I'm going to click here and double click on a border just so I can see my full column name. Owner ID. Remember how we made the caption? That's where the caption shows up now. Our first owner is capital O-1. That's going to be how we refer to that owner from any other table, how we relate, because these are relational databases. And here at Emmaus Bible College, we're very interested in relationships. Databases are super important here. Ted is our first owner. Owner last name, Sabas. Not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Owner street is 460 West Pioneer Road. I can double click on the column border to get it to auto fit to that. Notice it doesn't care whether I have not entered data into these other columns. as I refine my database, I can make fields required, and you can't leave that table without entering data there. It'll say, sorry, I can't save it if you haven't entered data in certain fields. But for now, we're allowed to skip fields, but we have some data to go in there. Dolores CO. Now watch what happens if I try to type more characters other than 2. Since I set field length of 2, I can't type any more than 2 characters. It's not checking that I've typed the correct characters, but it doesn't let me type more than 2. Postal code 81323. Tab, mobile phone, 7, or wait a minute. Did I actually hide a field? There. Somehow my home phone got hidden. Home phone is 719-231-4411. I'm not checking that they have typed it correctly. You'll see that when you type in forms on the internet. It'll say, sorry, that's an invalid format for your phone number. We can do that, but for now, we're just letting them type anything. Later on, we'll start adding what we call validation rules. Mobile phone 719-888-7735. And I see I have a hidden column here by accident. Email address of tsabas at cengage.com. So data now is in records. Every column is a field with a name and allowed data type. Every column of my record, that field must be that data type. Well, short text is very flexible data type. If I set a data type of like a number, if I'm keeping track of their budget, then it wouldn't let me type letters in there because that would not match that data type. Where Excel would let you do that and just treat it as though it were a strange number. I have one more owner to enter, O-2. The name of this owner is Stephen. N-G-U-Y-E-N for last name, and address of 9874 South Main. Not doing any spell checking. Blanding, city Blanding, state Utah. Again, it will not let me type more than 2. I will not let me type more than 25 in all these others. Postal code 84511. Make up some numbers here. 435-991-5670. Tab or arrow over to the next one. 435-777-6219. And sometimes you'll see that at certain websites it will be putting the dashes in for you. In our tables, we have to type our dashes because we aren't that sophisticated yet to require a particular format. So now I have 2 owners entered into my owners table. I can Control S anytime and close the table. I can reopen it and edit anything by just clicking once and edit. I can edit any field. And notice if I have not changed any width of a column, I can edit a field and close it. It does not say, oh, are you sure you want to save changes? Anytime you make a change, it immediately goes into that file or that item in your database. Your database is changing. The only time it asks you, are you sure, is when you actually change the layout, like adjusting the column width. Then when I save it, or if I close it, it'll say, do you want to save it first? Because I have made a change to the layout. I can change the data, and it automatically is changed. I can always view my table by just double-clicking on it from the navigator. So there's my owner's table. Here's something that helps you see the structure of your table. Although I can click on this and see my table field shows me this. What I like better than this table fields view, I like viewing it in design view. Up here in the little upper left triangle, if I click on that, it shows me the structure of my database table. I'm in my table, and now it's just focusing on what type of information goes in each column. I can toggle between datasheet view, design view, datasheet view, design view. To see the name of each column, the type of data, and here when I select on a row, I see the field size showing up down there in the properties. I can arrow up and down through my data in my design view. I like design view when I'm laying out the structure of my table. When I want to see what's in it, then I can go to datasheet view. So as we learn how we browse, and there's lots of things to browse through, I can view design view, and I can close it. If I want to view it, I can right click and I can open it in design view, or open it, normally opens it in datasheet view. Okay, so that's our owners table. Now it's time to create a second table, because we have owners, but they're not paying us money. They bring their pets to us, and we're going to call their pets patients. So we're going to click on create and create table. Create table. And right away I'm going to switch to design view, because I do not like datasheet view. It's not as friendly as design view, I think. So I click design view, and when I switch over, it wants me to give a name to the table. So let's give it a name, patients. Patients. And now I click OK. And here's now just specifying the name of the field and the data type in a slightly different structure, but I think more focused on the structure and not the data going in it. This is kind of confusing. I have all this space here for data, but this is a little more focused on, okay, what goes into that first column? Well, I don't want the name to be ID. I want it to be patient ID. So let's change that from ID to patient ID. And while I'm here, I notice that primary key is highlighted, and I see a little key there in that gray on the left. That means that this field is very special. And of course, I don't want it to be auto number. I want to be able to type in my patient ID, so I'm going to change that from auto number to short text. And let's see what other structure we have in our patient table. I want to make sure I follow the structure of this one. They give us the required structure later on here in their text. Oh, I lost my patients table. I get my listing of my patients table here, so I know what to create here. I must have skipped over part of it. Here we go. The structure of my patients table. Oh, we're not worried about the length of any of these. So we have patient ID, and now we choose another field name. This is going to be our patient name. Now we're not going to go by last name and first name of our patients, because they're just pets, and pets only have single names. Animal type, Labrador or particular type, and then a special breed there. Notice I can tab twice. The default data type is short text, and owner ID. This is a very important field. We're going to leave it as short text, and it has to be short text, because I'm going to put in here in the comments, must be short text, because it refers, or it relates to the owner ID in the owners table. And what type of data is it there? It's a short text over there. And it can't make a link to it, it can't make a reference to it. If I'm storing it here as a number, numbers can't be linked to short text in another table. They can't. In order for it to relate, It has to be the same data type. A little detail there that if you try to give it a different data type, Access will give you some mean errors when you try to relate your tables. I think this is a much quicker way and much clearer. I'm naming my fields that are going to become columns in my datasheet view. Let's switch over to datasheet view and see what shows up. Saving my structure, yes. And look at that. My column names are now named after those same columns. I'm going to click here and double click on a border so they all show up nicely, auto size. And I can go between datasheet view and structure view. So normally when people are creating tables, doing lots of them, you set your structure first and you look at how you're storing your data and how it's structured, and then you fill it with information. And here's the information we're going to fill in here with our few animals that we have. We're going to now fill the patients table, and the patient ID, since we changed it from auto number, I can type in C-1 for my first patient. I did not set any field sizes in that table, so patient name, pause. I can always come back later and adjust my field size limits. Animal type is feline, and the breed is calico. Now here is very important. I need to refer to an existing owner. Right now, the way it's set up, I could type anything here, but it doesn't make sense unless I actually refer to an owner that exists in my owners table. So I have to be very careful to type a proper existing owner. I can start typing here, and it'll immediately make room for a new record, C-2. Pet's name is Ranger. It is of animal type canine. So we have major animal type and then breed within that animal type, Labrador. And O-1, yes, that owner does exist. It wouldn't stop me from entering owner-11 accidentally. Even though that owner doesn't exist, it'll allow me to enter that data. Later on, we'll figure out how to make Access not let that accidentally happen, because that would be a very bad thing. You have orphan data. F1 is the name of this next patient. Name of Fluffy. It's a feline of type tabby. And I have to carefully make sure to reference an existing owner. So all we're seeing so far is entering data in a very carefully structured manner, so then I can work with this database and produce useful information. Have you ever heard of data entry jobs? A lot of data entry jobs is filling in this data that someone else has designed the database for. And as you enter customer data, or maybe someone at Amazon will hire you to enter information about a new product they're carrying, all the different sizes of floor tiles, a new product. Well, the data entry is going to be a lot of information, but how you structure the data, that is so important that they often have an expert doing this part and then saying, okay, now we need to hire data entry people to fill in the information into our millions of products. But the person doing the design better do that right so the proper data can be entered, and then make sure that you can't accidentally refer to a non-existent owner. Like if you had orders in Amazon and they lost track of who the person who ordered it was, well, then someone's getting some free stuff, or someone else is getting charged for the wrong things because they referred to the wrong purchaser. So databases, as they get data filled in and that data becomes more critical, how the tables relate to one another become very important. Controls S to save my information. And now let's see what we have. The patients table, 3 pets. Oh, I've got a problem here. Let's go to data. Oh, no, we do have a primary key as our patient. Nice thing, the thing about the primary key, that makes that a required field, and I should show required somewhat. Yes, see how required is showing down here? If I look at in datasheet view, I also see on patient ID column that that field has oh, it's not checked required there. That's a little interesting. It was checked required in my first section, but we can set that field to be required. It shows required there though. That's interesting. Patient ID required there. Just for fun, I'm going to go to required and let's change that to required. And let's see what happens. See if I can get away without entering a field there. Erase that. Oh, look at that. It doesn't let me go without entering something there. I can click OK and then Control Z to undo my recent change. There is a undo, but it's a little more limited as you edit tables. It's very easy to do something, and fortunately with Access, if you do something major that's going to make a major change that you cannot undo, it will usually give you a warning. You're about to delete 5,000 rows. Are you sure? And it'll say this cannot be undone. So what we have now is over here 2 tables. I can double click to view what's in any table. I can right click rename my table if I want to. Where's my rename? Yeah, I can right click rename. One thing to know, if I have it open, I can try to right click rename and it'll say sorry, you can't have it open if you want to try to rename it. So it'll give you that little warning. This again is a poor design. If it's open, rename should just be grayed out, that you can't rename it while it's open. It lets you try to rename it and then gives you an error. That's one thing about Access that you'll find is as you try to do different things, sometimes you'll get really scary looking messages just because people that don't know how to write friendly messages have written this program. And it is a complicated program, and some of the messages are meant to be confusing and only understood by those programmers at their level. We'll try to get a better understanding as we get some of those scary messages. So any table I'm in, I can always come back and adjust what field sizes are by just clicking on the column. I can see what the field sizes are as I click through them. If I'm in design view, I can see that same information in slightly different structure. There I see the field size, and now I can arrow down and see my field size and properties of each field there. I can do that with any table. Close it. Because I made adjustments, it's wanting me to save changes. Patients, I can always view the data, and design view. If I ever decide I want to adjust my limit on my field size, I can adjust those properties. But it looks like in this particular task, they haven't asked us to adjust the field size limit on any of these. So now you know at a little start of just entering the foundation of a database is tables. So learning to create and enter data in tables is where we start. As we build tables and we import tables, we'll have so much more capability, and then we'll be building a veterinarian patient appointment database database management capabilities. So we'll stop there. Next time we'll be adding more tables, refreshing your knowledge here of how databases work. Have a great day.